The great ships of the Guardian fleet hung motionless against the starlit void, their silver hulls reflecting the light of 1,000 suns. For 10,000 years, these mighty vessels had protected the galaxy, their crews drawn from the oldest and wisest races in known space. They were the shield that kept darkness at bay, the watchers who guarded the borders of civilized space. But today, they trembled. Admiral Ray stood on the bridge of the Guardian flagship Light of Dawn *, his aged blue skin turning pale as he watched the sensor readings. Something vast was moving between the stars, something that shouldn't exist. The borders of known space had gone dark, one system at a time, like candles being blown out by an unseen wind. "Report," Ray commanded, his 4 eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Third Fleet," his second-in-command reported. "The entire Spiral Arm defense network is offline. Whatever this thing is, it's eating the stars." Ray had seen much in his 300 years of service, but nothing like this. The enemy wasn't a fleet or an army. It was a living darkness that consumed everything in its path. Their most powerful weapons passed through it like light through glass. Their strongest shields crumbled before its touch. "Send the warning," Ray ordered, "to every world, every outpost. Tell them what comes." But world after world fell silent. The proud warrior races of the Star Kingdoms fled before the darkness. The wise philosophers of the gas giant colonies surrendered to despair. The mighty machine empires shut down rather than face the horror. In the command center of the Guardians' last fortress, the High Council gathered for what would be their final meeting. The greatest minds of a dozen species debated, argued, and finally accepted the truth. They had failed. Their civilization, for all its power and knowledge, could not stop what was coming. "There is one hope," said Council Member Tom, his hologram flickering as his distant world fell to the darkness. "The young species we have watched. The ones we never contacted because they were too unstable." "The humans?" Ray asked. "They barely have space flight. They still fight among themselves. They're primitives." "They are survivors," Tom countered. "While we engineered away our fears and violent instincts, they kept theirs. While we built our society on pure logic, they held on to their emotions. They still know how to rage against the dying of the light." The council chamber fell silent. To even consider asking primitives for help was unthinkable, but they were out of options. "Do it," Ray commanded. "Send them everything. Our knowledge, our warnings, our failures. Let them know what comes for them." The last Guardian ships formed a barrier around Earth's solar system, buying time with their lives as they transmitted their legacy to humanity. Ray watched from his dying flagship as the darkness approached, its vast form blotting out the stars themselves. "Strange," he said to his empty bridge, most of his crew already evacuated. "We thought ourselves their betters, yet in our final hour, we turned to them for hope." The message was sent. The warning was given. As the light of dawn broke apart around him, Ray's final thoughts were of the species they had looked down upon for so long. Would they understand the warning? Would they have the strength to fight when no others could? The darkness consumed the Guardian fleet, adding their light to its endless hunger. But in its victory, it failed to notice something peculiar. Unlike the other races who had fallen before them, the Guardians died not in despair, but in hope. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy was without its protectors. The ancient races had fallen or fled. The darkness grew stronger with each passing moment. But on a small blue world, turning quietly around an average star, humanity was about to receive a message that would change everything. The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at observatories across Earth. At first, the scientists thought their equipment was malfunctioning. The signal was unlike anything they had seen before, too clear, too structured, too alien. Within hours, every major space agency on the planet was analyzing the transmission. Within days, they began to understand its terrible meaning. In an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Director James watched the translated messages play across the giant screens. His weathered face grew grimmer with each passing moment. "Play it again," he ordered, running a hand through his gray hair. The part about their weapons failing. The screen flickered to life, showing diagrams of incredible alien technologies. Weapons that could shatter planets, shields that could contain the power of suns. All had failed against the darkness. "Sir," his assistant Mark said, holding up a tablet displaying urgent news, "we're getting reports. The outer edges of the solar system are going dark, just like they described. It's coming." James nodded slowly. He had spent 30 years preparing for first contact, but not like this. Not with a warning of doom from a dying civilization. "Call the emergency council," he ordered. "Every nation, every leader. They need to see this." For the first time in human history, the world's leaders gathered without argument or agenda. The transmission had included visual records of the darkness consuming entire worlds. There was no time for politics, no room for division. In a converted conference room in Geneva, representatives from every nation watched in silence as the final moments of the Guardian civilization played out before them. When the lights came up, there were tears in many eyes. The Guardians had technology we can't even understand. The Russian representative said, his voice heavy, "If they couldn't stop this thing, what chance do we have?" "A better one than you think," said Dr. Anna, stepping forward with a stack of papers. She was young for her position, but her mind had unraveled the Guardian data faster than anyone else. "Look at these energy readings. The darkness, whatever it is, feeds on advanced technology. The more sophisticated the weapon, the more it strengthens the enemy." She pulled up a comparison chart. "But our weapons, our simple, physical, primitive weapons, they barely register on their scales. We might be able to hurt it precisely because we're less advanced." The Chinese representative leaned forward. "You're saying our primitive technology might be our advantage?" "I'm saying," Anna replied, "that sometimes a rock thrown from a sling can bring down a giant." The meeting lasted 3 days. When it ended, humanity had done something unprecedented. They had united. All resources, all military forces, all scientific knowledge would be shared. Earth would stand together or fall together. In shipyards hastily converted from cargo ports, humanity built its first war fleet. The ships were ugly by Guardian standards, hard angles, and thick armor instead of sleek curves, chemical rockets instead of gravity drives, rail guns, and nuclear missiles instead of energy weapons. "Primitive but practical," James said, watching the first ships take shape. "Like us." Underground bunkers were built in every major city. The mysteries of the Guardian data were unraveled day by day. And in laboratories around the world, scientists discovered something strange. Human brainwave patterns showed a natural resistance to the darkness's psychic attacks. "We're too stubborn to give up," Anna joked during one briefing. "Too angry to die." 6 months after receiving the warning, Earth's first defense fleet was ready. 300 ships, crewed by soldiers from every nation, took up positions around the solar system. They were few against the vast darkness, their technology simple compared to what the Guardians had wielded. But they had something the Guardians had lost, the will to stand and fight. On the bridge of the flagship *Terra's Pride*, Admiral Jack watched the darkness approaching through his view screen. It was massive beyond comprehension, a living void that consumed light itself. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered, his voice calm despite the fear every human felt. "We are humanity. We do not go quietly into the night." The darkness that had scattered mighty empires approached Earth, expecting another easy victory. It was about to learn that humanity had something special, the rage to fight when others fled, the strength to stand when others fell. The first battle for Earth was about to begin. The first battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 30 human ships were destroyed, but they had achieved something remarkable. They had hurt the darkness. Admiral Jack stood in the war room on Earth, replaying the battle footage. The massive screens showed human ships firing their simple weapons, kinetic rounds, nuclear missiles, and old-fashioned explosives. Where the Guardians' energy weapons had passed harmlessly through the darkness, humanity's primitive arsenal tore actual holes in its mass. "Look there," he said, pointing to a particular sequence. "The nuclear detonations disrupt its form, and here, the railgun impacts actually made it retreat." Around the table, military leaders from different nations watched intently. For the first time, there was hope in their eyes. "But we lost 30 ships," someone pointed out. "And we learned how to fight it," Jack replied. "That's worth more than ships." The door burst open, and Dr. Anna rushed in, her lab coat wrinkled from hours of non-stop work. "You need to see this," she said, connecting her tablet to the main display. "We just got readings from the survival pods of the destroyed ships." The screen filled with data streams and brainwave patterns. "The darkness tried to attack our crew's minds, just like it did to the Guardians. But look at the results. Where the Guardians' minds had shattered instantly, human minds fought back. The darkness's psychic attacks met walls of pure human emotion. Anger, determination, fear turned to courage. We're not just resistant," Anna explained, her voice excited. "We're toxic to it. Our emotions, especially our stronger ones, disrupt its mental attacks. The more it tries to break us, the more we fight back." The news spread quickly through the fleet. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were discovering that everything the Guardians saw as their weaknesses were actually strengths. In orbit around Jupiter, the human fleet regrouped. Ships were ugly but effective, built to take hits and keep fighting. Inside them, crews trained with simple but reliable weapons. No fancy energy beams, just solid metal rounds accelerated to incredible speeds. No complex force fields, just layers of thick armor and point defense systems. Then something unexpected happened. The first alien refugees arrived. Their ships were beautiful, advanced vessels nearly crippled by the darkness's ability to feed on complex technology. They had expected to find Earth already consumed. Instead, they found humanity preparing for the next battle. On the station New Hope built hastily in Earth orbit, Admiral Jack met with the refugee leaders. They were shocked by what they saw. "You fight with projectile weapons?" asked one alien leader, his translucent skin showing his disbelief. "With explosives and nuclear devices. These are primitive weapons." "These primitive weapons work," Jack replied simply. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The aliens watched as human ships conducted battle drills. Their horror at humanity's barbaric methods turned to interest as they saw the results. More refugee ships arrived daily, and with them came a change. The aliens began learning from humanity. They stripped down their complex systems, replaced energy weapons with kinetic ones. They learned to think primitive, to embrace the simple, brutal effectiveness of humanity's approach. In his quarters on New Hope Jack reviewed the latest fleet updates. Humanity now had 500 ships, with more under construction. The refugee aliens had modified another 300 to fight alongside them. "Admiral," his computer announced, "we're detecting movement at the edge of the solar system. The darkness is returning." Jack stood at his window, watching Earth shine blue and beautiful in the distance. In 6 months, humanity had gone from a primitive species to the galaxy's last hope. They weren't the most advanced, the wisest, or the most powerful, but they were the ones still fighting. "Send word to the fleet," he ordered. "All ships to battle stations." The darkness had returned, expecting to find a broken enemy. Instead, it found humanity's rage burning brighter than ever. The real war was about to begin. A smile crossed Jack's face as he headed to his ship. Sometimes being primitive just meant remembering what the advanced species had forgotten. How to fight, how to survive, how to rage against the darkness. And humanity was about to show the galaxy how well they remembered. Earth had changed. Where once there were cities filled with civilian life, now stood massive factories and shipyards. The entire planet had become a fortress, A weapon, humanity's answer to the darkness that threatened everything. Director James walked through one of these new facilities, built deep in what used to be the Amazon rainforest. The sound of manufacturing filled the air as workers from every nation on Earth built weapons and ships around the clock. Another breakthrough from the Australian team, his assistant reported, hurrying alongside him. They found a way to make our nuclear warheads even more disruptive to the darkness. The radiation signature somehow interferes with its ability to feed. James nodded, watching as massive railguns were loaded onto a new battleship. How many ships today? 15 completed in the last 24 hours. The Chinese shipyards matched our output. European facilities are running at full capacity too. A group of alien refugees worked alongside human engineers, learning to strip down their advanced technology and replace it with simpler, more effective systems. They had started calling it human-style engineering, using basic physics and raw power instead of complex energy manipulation. "Sir," a technician called out, running up with a tablet. The darkness just hit the outer defense line. But something's different. It's avoiding direct contact with our ships. James hurried to the command center. The massive screens showed the battle unfolding at the edge of the solar system. The darkness, which had always attacked head-on, was now trying to maneuver around the human fleet. "It's learning to fear us." Admiral Jack's voice came through the comm system. He was leading the defense from his flagship. "Every time it faces our ships, it loses pieces of itself. Now it's trying to find another way in." "Which means we're hurting it more than we knew," James replied. "How are the new weapons performing?" "Better than expected. The simplified alien tech combined with our brute force approach. It's like we're hitting it with hammers made of lightning." The screen showed human ships fighting alongside modified alien vessels. What they lacked in elegance, they made up for in pure destructive power. Railguns fired rounds at incredible speeds. Nuclear missiles detonated in carefully planned patterns. Simple but devastating weapons tore through the darkness. In a lab near the command center, Dr. Anna worked with a team of human and alien scientists. They had discovered something remarkable about human brainwave patterns during battle. "The stronger our emotions, the more damage we do," she explained to James during his inspection. "Fear, determination, anger, especially anger, they all create a kind of psychic disruption that weakens the darkness. We're not just fighting it with weapons, we're fighting it with our minds." "The aliens engineered these emotions out of themselves," James said, understanding dawning. "They thought they were evolving, becoming more advanced. Instead they made themselves perfect prey for the darkness." Anna finished. "But we stayed primitive, emotional, raw. And that's what makes us deadly to it." Reports came in from around the solar system. The darkness was changing its tactics, becoming cautious. For the first time in its existence, it was facing prey that could bite back. In the shipyards, a new class of vessel was taking shape, bigger than anything humans had built before. It combined the best of human determination with stripped-down alien technology. They called it the Rage-class battleship. "The first one launches tomorrow," James said, standing with Anna at a viewport, watching the massive ship near completion. "The aliens think we're insane to build something so unrefined. But they're also starting to understand." "Understand what?" Anna asked. "That sometimes the best answer isn't the most advanced one. Sometimes you need to be primitive enough to punch a god in the face." The darkness gathered its strength for another attack. But Earth was ready. Humanity had awakened its war machine, and they weren't fighting for victory anymore. They were fighting for survival. The next battle would prove whether being primitive was humanity's greatest weakness or its greatest strength. And in shipyards and factories around the world, humanity prepared to show the galaxy why you should never underestimate a species that remembers how to rage. Dr. Anna hadn't slept in 3 days. The latest battle data had shown something so incredible that she couldn't stop working until she understood it. In her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, she watched the recordings again and again. "Show me the moment of impact," she told her computer. focusing on a particular scene where a human ship had rammed directly into the darkness. The screen showed the collision in slow motion. The darkness didn't just take damage, it recoiled as if in pain. More importantly, it seemed to shrink away from the human crew's dying thoughts. "Play the brainwave data again," she ordered, her hands shaking from too much coffee. The patterns that appeared made her heart race. An hour later, she burst into the war room, where Director James was meeting with military leaders. "I know why it fears us," she announced, her eyes bright with discovery. "And you're not going to believe it." The room fell silent as she connected her tablet to the main display. Images and data filled the screens. Brain scans, battle footage, ancient Guardian records they'd only recently decoded. "Look at these patterns," she said, pointing to the human brainwaves. "Now look at what the Guardians' minds used to look like, thousands of years ago, before they started engineering themselves to be more perfect." The patterns were almost identical. "The Guardians used to be like us," she explained. "Emotional, aggressive when threatened, willing to fight back. But they thought these were primitive traits that needed to be removed. Generation after generation, they engineered themselves to be calmer, more logical, less emotional." She switched to new images. They didn't just do it to themselves. Every advanced species they uplifted, they taught to do the same thing. They thought they were helping everyone evolve. But they were actually making everyone vulnerable. James finished, beginning to understand. "Exactly." Anna's hands flew over the controls, showing more data. "The darkness doesn't just feed on advanced technology. It feeds on advanced minds. Calm, logical, emotionless minds are easy prey. But human minds, we're chaos. We're fire. We're everything it can't digest." Admiral Jack, attending via hologram from his flagship, leaned forward. "You're saying our emotions are poison to it." "Better than that," Anna replied. "I managed to translate some of the oldest Guardian records. There's a reason the darkness travels between galaxies, consuming advanced civilizations. It's running from species like we used to be, species that still know how to fight back." The room erupted in discussion. If Anna was right, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their ships or their guns. It was their very nature. "There's more," she continued, her voice cutting through the noise. "The Guardian's records suggest a way to weaponize this advantage. We can broadcast human emotional energy directly at the darkness, not just from individuals, but from entire battle groups at once. A weapon made from human rage," James said quietly. "Can we build it?" Anna nodded. "We already have the prototype, but we'll need something bigger for a killing blow. Much bigger." The next few hours were a blur of planning. The new Rage-class battleships would be modified to carry emotional amplifiers. Every ship in the fleet would be equipped with broadcasting devices that could channel their crew's fighting spirit directly at the enemy. But the real work was just beginning. In chambers beneath every major city, millions of humans volunteered to have their emotional energy recorded and stored. Their anger, their determination, their will to survive, all of it would become ammunition. "The darkness thinks we're primitive," Anna said, watching the volunteers file into the recording chambers. "It thinks our emotions make us weak. But that's because it never understood what the Guardians forgot. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Sometimes you need to be primitive enough to feel real rage." In orbit, the fleet prepared for what would become the largest battle in human history. They had found the darkness's weakness. It was time to exploit it. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy why emotion wasn't a weakness to be engineered away, but a strength to be embraced. And the darkness was about to learn why you should never corner a species that remembers how to be angry. The largest fleet ever assembled hung in space between Mars and Jupiter. 1,000 human ships, their hulls black against the stars. 500 modified alien vessels, stripped of their elegant technology and rebuilt with humanity's brutal efficiency. And at the center, the first 5 Rage-class battleships, each one larger than any vessel humanity had ever built. Admiral Jack stood on the bridge of the flagship Asterisk, humanity's Fury Asterisk, watching his crew prepare for battle. The ship hummed with power, not from advanced energy systems, but from millions of recorded human emotions, ready to be unleashed. All ships report ready, his second-in-command reported. The emotional amplifiers are charged to maximum. Dr. Anna, Jack called through the comm system. How are the readings? In her lab on the Asterisk, humanity's Fury Asterisk, Anna checked the final calibrations. The walls were lined with devices storing the concentrated emotions of millions of humans. Fear turned to courage, despair transformed into determination, and above all, pure human rage, refined and ready. The broadcast system is stable, she replied. Every ship in the fleet is synchronized. When we fire, we'll hit it with the emotional energy of over 10 million humans at once. The darkness had retreated to the edge of the solar system after their last battle, gathering its strength. But humanity wasn't going to wait for it to return. They were taking the fight to the enemy. All ships, battle formation, Jack ordered. The fleet moved with precision that would have amazed the Guardians. No fancy maneuvers, just solid, practical tactics developed through centuries of human warfare. The modified alien ships took their positions, their crews having learned to embrace humanity's way of fighting. They had discovered that beneath their engineered calm, ancient emotions still lurked, waiting to be awakened. Energy signatures detected, the sensor officer called out. The darkness, it's massive. Bigger than anything we've seen before. The void between the stars seemed to twist as their enemy revealed itself. It had consumed countless advanced civilizations, growing stronger with each victory. But now, for the first time in its ancient existence, the darkness hesitated. It senses the weapons, Anna said, watching the readings. It knows we can hurt it. All ships, stand by to fire, Jack commanded. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember everyone we've lost. Remember the rage that makes us human. The darkness struck first, tentacles of void reaching for the fleet. But humanity was ready. Rail guns roared, filling space with hypersonic projectiles. Nuclear missiles detonated in calculated patterns. And beneath it all, the emotional amplifiers began to power up. First wave, broadcast, Jack ordered. The front line of ships unleashed their stored human emotions. The darkness recoiled as if struck by physical blows. Where once it had fed easily on the calm minds of advanced races, now it faced the raw, primal power of human feelings. Second wave, broadcast. More ships joined the assault. The darkness tried to retreat, its vast form writhing in space. But humanity pressed forward, their weapons and their emotions tearing into the ancient horror. It's trying to run, Anna reported, her voice filled with disbelief. An entity that's consumed entire galaxies is trying to flee from us. Not this time, Jack said quietly. Then, louder. All ships, full broadcast, everything we've got. The 5 Rage-class battleships opened fire with their main weapons, but instead of energy beams or projectiles, they unleashed waves of pure human emotion. The concentrated rage, fear, hope, and determination of millions of humans struck the darkness like a physical force. The void seemed to scream. The darkness, which had known only easy victory for eons, faced something it couldn't comprehend. A species that didn't just fight back, but fought back with their very souls. Keep firing, Jack ordered as the fleet pressed forward. Show it why humanity survived. Show it why we never surrendered. Show it what it means to face a species that remembers how to hate its enemies. The battle raged across the solar system. The darkness, for the first time, knew fear, and humanity, the primitives who had been ignored for so long, showed the galaxy why emotion wasn't a weakness. It was the most powerful weapon of all. The battle had raged for 20 hours. The solar system's edge was filled with the light of nuclear fire and the invisible waves of human emotion. The darkness, which had devoured civilizations and extinguished stars, was shrinking. On the bridge of the Asterisk, humanity's Fury Asterisk, Admiral Jack watched through eyes blurred with exhaustion. His ship's hull creaked from battle damage, but the emotional amplifiers still burned bright with humanity's rage. "Status report," he called out, his voice hoarse. "We've lost 200 ships," his second-in-command reported. "The alien vessels are down by half." "But sir, the darkness. It's different." The main screen showed their ancient enemy. Where once it had been an endless void, now it looked tattered and torn. Each blast of human emotion had ripped away pieces of its being. Each wave of rage and determination had burned holes in its ancient form. In her battle-damaged lab, Dr. Anna worked frantically to analyze the readings. "Admiral," she called through the comm, "it's not just taking damage, it's dissolving. Our emotions aren't just hurting it, they're unmaking it." The darkness tried one final desperate attack. It lashed out at the fleet with all its remaining strength. Ships vanished into its void, their crews fighting to the last second. But even as it destroyed them, their final emotions struck back at it like physical blows. "All surviving ships," Jack commanded, "form up on the Rage-class battleships. Prepare for final broadcast. Every scrap of emotion we have left, give it everything." The remaining ships gathered, their crews channeling every feeling they had into the amplifiers. Fear, anger, hope, love, hate. The full spectrum of human emotion focused into a weapon. "Fire," Jack roared. 5 Rage-class battleships, hundreds of human vessels, and the surviving alien ships unleashed their final broadcast together. The combined emotional energy of millions of humans struck the darkness like a spear of pure feeling. The void screamed, not with sound, but with something deeper, the death cry of something that had thought itself immortal. The darkness, which had fed on countless advanced minds, found itself drowning in the raw power of primitive human emotions. "Keep firing," Anna shouted, watching the readings spike. "It's breaking apart at the quantum level. Emotions it consumed from other races are being torn out of it." Space itself seemed to shudder. The darkness tried to flee, but humanity's rage followed it. Tried to fight, but humanity's determination met it. Tried to feed, but humanity's emotions poisoned it. Then, with a flash that blinded every sensor in the fleet, the darkness shattered. When the sensors cleared, they showed something impossible. Where the void had been, pinpricks of light sparkled. The energy of countless consumed civilizations, freed from their ancient prison, returning to the universe. "We did it," Anna whispered, tears floating in the zero gravity of her lab. "Humanity did what the Guardians couldn't, what no advanced race could." The fleet regrouped, battered but triumphant. Of the 1,500 ships that had started the battle, barely 800 remained. But they had achieved something unprecedented. They had destroyed a horror that had terrorized the galaxy for eons. In the days that followed, the refugee alien ships began receiving signals. Other civilizations, hiding in distant corners of the galaxy, emerged from their shelters. The news spread quickly. The darkness was gone, destroyed by the very emotions it had thought to be signs of weakness. 1 month after the final battle, representatives from every surviving spacefaring race gathered on Earth. They came to honor humanity, but also to learn from them. "We thought advancing meant leaving emotions behind," one alien leader said during the ceremony. "We thought being civilized meant being calm and logical. We were wrong. Humanity showed us that our primitive roots, our ability to feel, to rage, to love, these aren't weaknesses to be engineered away. They're strengths to be embraced." Admiral Jack, standing with Dr. Anna and Director James, watched as human engineers began teaching alien races how to rebuild their ships, their weapons, and their societies. Not with advanced technology, but with a balance of progress and primal strength. "What happens now?" Anna asked, looking at the stars. "Now," Jack replied with a smile, "we show the galaxy that being primitive never meant being weak. It just meant remembering what truly makes us strong." The darkness was gone, and in its place, a new age was dawning. an age where emotion and advancement would walk hand in hand, where being primitive was recognized as a strength, not a weakness. Humanity had raged against the darkness, and in doing so, they had lit the way forward for all civilizations.